So we are Aiyudo. We help you clone your customers with AI and get prescriptive insights in seconds. Data analytics in the enterprise has a dirty little secret. It just isn't actionable for stakeholders at the decision point. And what that actually means is that you can have all the data in your data lake house or your data warehouse. You can have all the insights that your analytics teams puts together for you. But when that data and those analytics actually land on the desk of the non-technical business stakeholders, they often see themselves asking, okay, so now what? What do I do now? And what that translates into is billions of dollars a year that's spent on ML resources for decision support and weeks lost to meetings and emails and Slack channels and phone calls between non-technical stakeholder teams and technical analysts in what's known as decision alignment, which I hope no one here ever really has to suffer through. Unfortunately for us, we actually do know that problem all too well. I have 7 years of experience in customer analytics for brands and companies like YouTube, Cohort, and Uber, building proprietary data products to help make sense of all the data that these companies have and drive decision support.
My most recent experience, I was with the activity of engineering at Warner Media. I have the first-hand experience how complicated and difficult it is to bring massive volume of data together and drive data insight. And also how limited today business can make decisions out of data. And in my previous companies, we spend millions of dollars hire people like that and bring together the third-party data and first-party data and drive business to make bottom-up decisions. Do I need this mic? Can you hear me well?
Mike. Yeah.
Okay, so what Aiyudo do is, as Ben just mentioned, so business have data. So for example, like today they bring together different data sources. For example, CRM data, CDP data, data from databases, from data lake, and it goes through a series of processing, and it produces dashboard. And those silo dashboard fit into different business unit. For example, product team, marketing team, customer experience team. In my previous work experience, it's multiple business unit. It's completely separate siloed businesses, media and games and stores. And often we know what happened. Okay, and often we also have some sense what caused something happen. For example, this revenue drop, goes up, goes down, but rarely we know what we can do. So what we do is Aiyudo, and Ben is a domain expert in this consumer data. We're going to bring forward our own proprietary consumer data and train the virtual twin and the consumer AI model. So together, combined with business data, so we are going to simulate people behavior and how they make decisions and predict the business result and make actionable business insights. So which is today's business cannot do. And we have our flywheel as we get more and more customers, and we are going to acquire more proprietary data. So I want to emphasize here, we are not going to use our customer data. So we are going to collect our own data from, for example, surveys, social media, etc. And so we are going to use that to improve our model. And as our model improve, and we can help business to make better decisions.
So let's actually double click, if you will, on how this often looks today. So let's say I'm an analyst at a large national coffee chain, and I want to understand what's going on with my cold brew sales. So I can use one of the many new text-to-SQL tools on the market to just put into natural language, how have my sales trended? And I can see they went up from 2019 to 2021, and then they started to fall, and now they've fallen to a low level now in 2023. From there, I could go into one of the new no-code, low-code predictive analytics tools and actually see in part why that happened. And I can see actually $42,000 of that decline was driven by a drop in people thinking the cold brew was a good value. And that's where the current tooling really stops. And even the new arrivals on the market stop. With Aiyudo, you actually get prescriptive guidance about what to do to close this gap. So what Aiyudo would do in this case is you could ask Aiyudo, what are some promotions I could run to actually recapture that lost revenue? And what Aiyudo will do is run thousands of simulations of thousands of different promotional offers across the hundreds of thousands of virtual customer twins that we built with your customer data and our proprietary data to actually stack rank the best performing promotions that are simulated to have the highest revenue recapture and show that information to you in dollar denominated terms. We did a little bit of rapid market testing and validation this weekend over the past 72 hours and spoke to 3 potential ICPs who are non-technical business stakeholders at leading B2C brands. And what we heard from all of them was that not only would this save them time, but it would make them much more valuable to both their team and make their team more valuable to the greater organization. And we have a meeting booked for Monday to discuss a pilot partnership with one of them. So there's a large TAM here. It's over $150 billion spent every year on data analytics. That really means you need just under 1% of the market to capture. You just need under 1% of market capture to get to 100 million in ARR. And our business model is a SaaS fee for license deal where we're charging $1,000 per license per year and driving productivity and growth at the fraction of a cost of a dedicated decision support analyst. GTM strategy, between Ruping and I, we have connections with lots of B2C enterprise companies. We'd work that Rolodex to secure an initial lighthouse customer and then snowball from there. So we're asking today for introductions to potential enterprise customers and early stage investors who are aligned with what we're building. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, and we want to open up the floor to questions. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think like in the previous slide
Yeah. Right. 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 That's an excellent question. So a lot of the time with those teams, sorry. To repeat the question was basically a lot of these large enterprises that we showed the logos for have dedicated data science teams that are running simulations based off of their existing data to help determine next steps across certain areas. How do you convince them that your data can actually help them do a better job? Is that basically the question? Thank you. So the answer there is that a lot of the time what those simulations are looking at is really just running correlations against past promotion performance and then looking at what do we want to recycle that we've already done and we already have a historical record of, and we can make predictions from there. What we're doing is we're building a kind of industry vertical model across verticals where we're acquiring our own what's known as zero-party data, like very large, 100,000s of people surveys that are not just a one-question NPS survey. They're a very in-depth, granular survey where we're getting a general model of who people are, how they behave, and what purchasing decisions they're making and why. And with that, when you bring in the business's data about the actual historical performance of promotions and the actual demographic breakdown of the customer base and the actual transaction records, that does give you synergy in terms of what you're able to simulate for things that haven't appeared before in the database. And we also offer them an option to validate the prediction for a low cost. You can validate that stuff with live customers for only a few $100s. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think any of the logos we showed, I think could be good fits. I mean, one I think one pretty good example. I don't want to put too many private conversations on blast here, but one pretty good example could be Shein, where they already have a very data-driven culture, and they're already part of their business model is making predictions to inform supply chain, and that's kind of their just-in-time plan. I know Reping is a bit more plugged into this than I am, but I think any business that is rapidly needs to understand, predict, and preempt changes in customer preferences would be a good fit. Probably not software businesses, to be honest. Mostly traditional retail consumer businesses, I think, are the target. Yeah, B2C businesses. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely a concern that people just generally bring to the table with any type of enterprise data analytics when you involve generative AI. This would run on an entirely private cloud environment for each customer. I think we probably could run things on-prem. Again, this is a bit more Reping's area of expertise, but critically, we're not using their data to train any model. We're just bringing our models and our data to their environment and running simulations from there.
Yes. So as Ben mentioned, we don't use customer data. So we have, as Ben has been in this field for many years, like he just mentioned about survey data, there's lots of social media data, lots of zero-party data. So there's no, so we cannot use customer data. Yeah. Oh, okay.
How do you go about like building and testing a platform like this? So you're not using customer data, you're generating synthetic data to predict models.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to really test them to see if this stuff works.
Absolutely.
And in the past, there have been like people trying to model consumer behavior, forecast these, like make these models. So how do you go about testing this, especially if you can't use real data and you kind of have to ship it to test?
Totally. So, so the question is, how are you going to test this? And if do you have to ship this to test it because you can't use your customer data? A lot of people have tried to use synthetic personas of customers using LLMs, and they have to ship the test. How can anyone trust you if that's the case? Is that pretty fair? More or less. So I think a lot of people were inspired by some academic papers that came out that showed LLMs can do a pretty good job at simulating customer reactions to different environments, and they actually can. The problem is a pretty good job isn't accurate enough. So yeah, we are generating synthetic data, but we're feeding it with live data that we've captured from real people using proprietary methodologies and models. So we will have a pretty large data set being fed into our own synthetic generation engine. And we will do our own testing and validation in that process as well, with just making predictions and then asking people to, and then fielding that same question, if you will, with the same audience and looking for gaps and learning from there. Please, yeah.
Okay, can anybody guess? Okay, so there's multiple meanings. First of all, this is from Spanish. It means from Spanish. Okay, so the question is what Aiyudo means. So it's a Spanish. It's I help. Okay, because we are in the AI era. This is also like Aiyudo, which means we leverage AI to do a bunch of things to help business grow. Yeah, and also it sounds like a Japanese cartoon. This from my son. So we have multiple names, and we came up multiple names. I just went through with my son which one you like. Is a I would the cartoon name. Okay, thank you for the question.